people still outside, but
Yeah.
that's all right. We'll
Cool.
just keep on going. All right, folks, we're going to get started with David's presentation. So we'll let it be then. They're going to have their own.
All right. Well, thank you guys for coming today. I think Olivia teed this one up very well. Excuse me, guys. Thanks. I think Olivia teed this one up really well when we talk about social engineering. And just, show of hands, is everyone here in cybersecurity for the most part? Cybersecurity? Okay. Yeah. Everyone's in cybersecurity. Okay. So, yeah, I think, we think about, how do breaches happen, right? How do the attackers get into the company's network, right? And I think the way I've always thought about cybersecurity is it's kind of like a medieval city with walls, right? It's and inside the city you kind of have different sections of the city, right? And that's your network security, right? Maybe the king and the queen are in the castle, maybe near the bank vault, and that could be maybe your source IP, right? Or your the company's finances. Maybe you have identity access management, which is kind of the guards at the gate who are letting people both, managing people coming in and out of the exterior walls, but also within the interior walls as well. I've been in the industry now, not nearly as long as some people in this room, but what I kind of noticed is all of the innovation and all the investment has been in these castle walls approaches, right? And the new EDR solution that's going to, eradicate all ransomware and all malware on computers. And it just kind of felt like, there's all these different centricities within cybersecurity. There's endpoint centricity, network centricity, you name it, right? Back in the day, it was just an office, right? You just had to defend the perimeter of the office. Please.
That's a great fact. I think
Please.
It's a culture thing.
Yeah.
Because you have network teams that
Yep.
don't want to talk to security teams, and security teams don't want to talk to network teams.
Yep.
And then you've got executives that don't want to talk to anybody. So I think that hurts a lot.
The silos within the security organization, within the IT organization, absolutely. But yeah, so just a bit on myself. I've been helping to build other people's companies into AI companies and cybersecurity companies into billion-dollar companies, right? So from pre-seed all the way through post-Series D. Most recently, I was at a company called At Bay, which is a leading cyber insurance underwriter. And what they do is they underwrite cyber insurance for 40,000 US-based businesses, mostly mid-market on average. And I saw this stat, which was pretty staggering. I think the stat's been the same for 20 years, right? I think it ranges from 75 to 95%, right, depending on what source you look at. But obviously, we went with the higher source, which McKinsey and the FBI say that 90% of breaches start because an employee inside the company will just kind of let the attackers in, right? We would try not to use the word hackers because hackers can be good guys too, right? But yeah, so 90% of the time, the employees on the inside are letting the attackers in. And Olivia teed this up. I wish she was still here, but she teed this up really well, right? I think we talk a lot about with AI with AI-powered social engineering, both the quantity and the quality of social engineering is increasing, right? So you have this situation where the sophistication of individual attacks, the attackers now have all this data that they can analyze, and actually that's where the quantity comes into play. They can pull in open source intelligence data and target thousands of employees in the same amount of time that they previously could only target tens of employees. And so, you're kind of looking at the market, right? And I was shocked when October 2022, a company called KnowBe4 was purchased for $4.5 billion by Vista Equity Partners. I wasn't shocked by the purchase price or that it happened. I mean, they have $350 million in annual recurring revenue with, I think, 30,000 customers. But I was shocked at how bad the technology was, right? There's really been no innovation investment in this space for about 10 years, leaving CISOs, deputy CISOs, importantly in this space, GRC professionals and security awareness professionals to deal with all this manually, right? People like Olivia, who runs this at Amtrak, are left with standardized security awareness trailing. And tell me, you're Matt? Matt. And Matt, I think there were some connections to what you were just talking about in terms of how people learn and And in these tools, it's exactly like you said. It's like the Microsoft training. It's hours of standardized video, and we surveyed over 250 end users who use know before and proof point security awareness training with standardized training, and over 99% of these people told us that they spend as little time as possible on training. They click through, they minimize the window, they're guessing on the multiple choice until they pass. So high risk employees aren't held accountable. Low risk employees' time is wasted. There's like these positions within the security organization that are super manual and time consuming. And it's kind of been this race to the bottom in terms of price point, technology, and buying this stuff for compliance. So we have a bit of a different approach. I was going to do a different talk today, but it was pretty similar to Olivia, so I just kind of pivoted to this one. I think technology can solve problems. I am a techno optimist, but I agree with you that technology has also created horrible incentive models and structures within society, and I think society is pretty diseased, partially due to technology, but I think it can be good. So what do we do at Dune Security? And just a note about us, we're a very young company. We're 13 months old at this point. We are funded by some of the best investors in the world. We are working with some of the biggest enterprises in the world, companies like Warner Music Group and Paychex and a bunch of others.
And David, what's your role there?
I'm the co-founder and CEO. Sorry. Anyway, so I'm the guy. I do this, and then we have all the AI developers in the Soho office who are doing this. So our first step, right? If 90% of breaches start with employee error, the first step for us is how do we understand where the risk is within the company? And today, existing solutions will send out a phishing test and say, what percentage of people clicked on this, right? We think of that as a single sensor. So what we've really built is all 5 senses and the brain, right? Something that continually updates in real time. What is the risk profile of each individual employee, which is contextualized to the role. So we built this without, this is pretty feature-based, this slide. I'll try to keep this higher level, but I think one really cool AI model we built, it's basically a mini LLM. It's trained on 100,000 different job titles. We are normalizing and standardizing disparate job titles for, we're working with a company that has 500,000 employees in a POV model. We are normalizing job titles into a leveling and functioning system. So we can assume the level of risk of each individual employee, right? Based on their assumed levels of access and permissions. Is this person a high-level person in finance? Are they maybe a junior person in marketing, right? How do their risk profiles likely differ? That becomes a modifier on the risk profile. And then we just test people. So we test people specific to who they are and where they are. The testing is specific to the company, specific to the role, specific to the language, the geography. So it's not like we're sending a Best Buy phishing email to every employee in the company. We're doing email phishing, SMS smishing. We are doing the IT help desk phishing, which is how the Clorox and the MGM breaches happened. We're also building the deepfake testing, and we'll hit people specific to where they are. So if they are in accounts payable, we'll send them a fraudulent invoice. If they're a developer, we're going to reach out to them as GitLab, right? So it's super specific testing to the user. I think one example here is in January of this year, this is the sophistication or the quality of social engineering. In January of this year, we had a hacker in Hong Kong, a very sophisticated hacking group or attacker group, was able to create deep fakes of 10 different executives in a company in Hong Kong. And I think it was 9 different executives. I think the 10th executive joined the call, ended up wiring $25 million, right? Didn't realize, so it did kind of pass that uncanny valley where, the deep fakes are starting to get to the point where, the human eye can't really tell what's going on. And I think Bessemer just funded a company on deepfake detections. So of course, there's a lot of different ways to attack the problem. But yeah, so we're building that stuff in on we've built the world's most advanced white hat social engineering testing capability. The third piece, there's a company that just got purchased by Mimecast, I think it was in December, called Elevate Security. And what they tried to do is create a new market here, but we think we really have to start with the testing and training. The API inputs, right? So what I call kind of business as usual data points, actual levels of access and permissions, any risky behavior or anomalous activity. So for example, is the user accessing the network with a rogue device? Are they suddenly emailing anomalous addresses in different parts of the world? Are they logging on to the network at 2 parts of the world at the same time? These can be real time. So we actually, insider threat is also a big application of what we're doing. But yeah, I mean, I think in sum, what we do is we take in the variety of data. We are agnostic to the data source. And the only reason this is possible is because all the analytics we have a machine learning quantification model that allows for this. But we're able to, at scale, automatically figure out who is creating risk in a company, to what extent, and how. The next piece is pretty cool. So the innovation that's happened in security awareness training, I think, has been mostly what I'll call kind of more SMB and mid-market focused, pretty colors or badging or just kind of ways to gamify security awareness training, which is better for kind of the SMB market. And there's no, that's totally fine, but I don't think it solves the problem. What we do is quite simple. We train people at what they're bad at, not what they're good at, plus what they need for compliance in real time. So we're actually saving about 10 hours per year per employee on training. The low risk employees, we let them get back to work, right? We don't want to restrict them. We don't want to sandbox them. For the high risk employees, we will increase the intensity and frequency of training and testing with the risk profile of the individual. The next piece is everything in our company and everything's in-house. There's no, we're SOC 2 Type 2 compliant, or we have the SOC 2 Type 2 attestation, ISO 27001 compliant. But nothing is, everything we build is in-house, including the training. So the training piece is quite interesting in that we think our training quality is a bit higher quality than the competitors, but we can also, using AI, we can build training, super high quality training in record time, right? So within like 2 hours, we are ideation through scripting, through editing, or through creation, through editing, through post-processing, which means for our enterprise companies, we are building hyper-specific, customized training at scale, which is pretty exciting. Training is also super functional specific. With the blast radius model, we can figure out and kind of normalize and standardize those functions into buckets, and then just automatically train people relevant to their different functions. Lots of other cool features. Today's not really a day for a demo, but I think the last piece is quite interesting, right? So, you think about security awareness training, or you think about employee risks. I think there's something missing here. There's kind of a paradigm shift that we think needs to happen, which is really a shift to the user-centric model of cybersecurity. There's been the endpoint-centric model, the network-centric model, et cetera. What we really want to do is for 95 to 97% of our end users and enterprises, we can dramatically and rapidly reduce the risk profile within just 30 days. For the 3 to 5% of employees, we're still kind of figuring out the numbers because we're a pretty young company. But for the 3 to 5% of employees, how do you deal with these employees, right? What do you do, right? Every company is super different. There's different cultures, different processes, different technologies. So what we're able to do is just provide the intelligence, right? We are creating intelligent groups, pushing those out. We integrate perfectly with the rest of the security stack. So, for example, we can push out groups to Microsoft Entra ID or Okta saying, hey, here are your high risk users, medium risk, low risk, dynamically and automatically pushing those groups out, which we think, in sum can actually more intelligently, or help security leaders more intelligently manage their security infrastructure and reduce their risk to a more acceptable risk level. Some companies, we're working with some financial services companies. Performance management is also an option. We saw Microsoft, I think 2 weeks ago or a week ago, just said that their executives are going to be compensated based on their cybersecurity metrics. So it was like a perfect, we're kind of skating to where the puck is going, right? Microsoft does X, and then everyone's going to follow them. So performance management could be an option here. I think one other thing that seems to be missing, and kind of just going back for a second, risk profiles are not just hey, this employee doesn't understand the risk of entering in their credentials into a fraudulent portal or MFA. It's not just ignorance, right? It's also carelessness. There's kind of this, and it probably goes back to what you were talking about, and this lack of like community and culture, and the remote work is, I think, pretty terrible. But a lot of employees just don't care, and so we created an NLP knowledge checking tool where it's or model where it's an open text field, and we can ask Matt, hey Matt, what did you learn in this training? And we can actually judge it for accuracy, sentiment, and level of effort. In just 400 characters, it's trained exactly on the script, so he can't just Google something or ask AI. So yeah, I think carelessness is a really big problem. We're able to actually figure out which employees just don't give a shit, right? Which is, I think, super important for security organizations. That's kind of it for the slides. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm happy to just keep talking if you guys want to hear. Yeah.
So how
Please.
do you stern against the super brainiac smart people right here that could care less about doing the 1 hour training
Yep.
security? Because they will sit there. I've been there, done that, and I'm just like I'm working on a top secret project, government, whatever, stuff. And I was like, I don't have time to do this.
Of course,
1 hour
nobody
training.
has time.
It's like I don't. But then I would show up as a high risk because, I didn't answer the questions. I was just clicking through, but it's like, I can't tell you what I'm working on. I can't tell my friends. I can't tell my family.
Yeah.
My dopamine is here, and then it goes here, 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 here all day long. So, I mean, to me,
How do we deal with that?
It would be hard to profile someone like me.
Yeah, and someone like you, I would assume, is obviously a executive or C-suite individual. That's totally configurable. So the security leader, the security awareness people, the GRC, everything in our platform is super configurable. So the way we manage for that is you could set very simple maxes and mins for like the C-suite, for example. The other piece too is like think of it this way. What we've really built is like organic immunity for the organization. So like, yeah, maybe in the initial stages we're doing this baseline risk assessment the first 30 days, and we're perhaps trying to hit you exactly to who you are. If you're passing those tests, basically the amount of testing and training just starts to decrease to the point where it's ideally near zero. The point is like the training is not Olivia was talking about culture and resilience and saying all these great things, but it's how do you actually do that? I think you just want to kind of apply training and testing to where it's needed and not where it's not needed. And I don't think this was possible until the past few years with advances in AI. I really don't. The biggest thing, and I kind of like nerd out about it, but the biggest thing that I think and it's actually, it didn't take us like, the blast radius piece I think is super important, just because, one of our companies we're going live with now is, I mentioned 500,000 employees globally, different languages, disparate contractors, employees versus whatever, all these different outsourced individuals, different identity providers. How do you how do you just figure out, who's in your company and what do they do, right? I think that's like a super important piece to actually quantify risk, is just standardizing and normalizing it. But yeah, I mean, for you, for high level execs, or obviously there's exceptions to all the rules.
Yeah, I mean, we had a thing. I was in the Navy, and
Yeah.
our program was. I was on a very specialized team.
Sure.
Let's put it that way. I'll talk about what I did. But our thing was a lot with your training, Matt, was our stress level was unimaginable to anybody in this room for what we did. And
Navy SEALs?
I don't really talk.
You don't talk about it. Yeah.
But the stuff that we learned through training and everything was, everyone thought we were up here stress level. My stress level was actually here. I'm actually more stressed out with my 20-year-old son, and him losing his driver's license or something, than I was ever in the military. But it's that, that risky behavior. We could funnel that out. I mean, we had an acceptance rate of about 9% of the people made it through the training. Most of them didn't. They went and rang that bell because it's too much.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't discern the difference between someone yelling at you and firing a gun next to your head just to stress you out. It had no meaning whatsoever that day, but it was just the stress level. But they were very good at the instructors were, how do we bring that level down to where you're not stressed, so now you can learn. Now everything else makes sense. There's a reason why we repetitively did X, Y, and Z. And I mean, that's the risky behavior. We could farm that out really fast. We're like, okay, no, this guy needs to be a boat operator. this guy needs to be a sniper, this guy needs to be whatever. Just basically, it was a human AI.
Yeah.
You know, of what you're doing here, which is really, really cool. I see so many similarities that I was just going when Matt was talking too, and putting both of y'all together, which really interesting to see, because most people don't see that.
Yeah.
You know, like, and Matt will understand what I'm talking about is because I don't talk about what I did because no one else in this room can understand it.
Yeah.
You know, I have a very small brotherhood of people that I can talk to. I don't talk to my wife. My son doesn't know because it just they won't understand. You know, it's difficult. That's why I was asking the question about the risky behavior. Is like there is certain people, because I do work with some really, really smart people. To the perfect example, there's a lady at a bank. I was doing a break into banks. It was one of the jobs I was doing.
Nice.
And one of the ladies I was dealing with is, man, no way you could social engineer her. She was at the bank for 20 years. She hated all these trainings. She literally would tell HR, I don't care, don't send me anything. No phishing test ever worked on her.
Yep.
Nothing. And it's because she's been there for 20 years. And she knew every little nuance. And but her manager finally got all mad at her. It's like, well, you got to take the test. You got to take these tests. Why aren't you clicking? Why aren't you taking these, security awareness training? She's like, why?
Why do I need to?
I don't need to do it.
She doesn't need to.
No.
Let her get back to work.
Risk is so friggin' low.
Yeah.
It's not even funny. But I guess my thing would be for both of y'all. That's a great question for both. Is how do you take a company culture for someone like that is super low risk when the people at the top are like, oh no, everyone's risky. It's like, come on, how do we?
There's a couple of points there, but like when the people at the top, being the CISO, I think it's something like 10 to 20% of CISOs say, hey, you know what, security awareness training, I don't believe in it because they're always going to click on something. And 3 years ago, okay, we're just going to implement zero trust network architecture, and that's going to solve it, right? And that didn't really work out so well.
No, not so well.
Anyway, so I think
But it sounds good.
it sounds good, yeah, and
I have a slide on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that there's, the culture does start at the top. I think that, we work with mid to large enterprise companies and speak with them every day, like 5 of them, and their security awareness and GRC function specifically, we're often reporting to the CISO. And yeah, I just think that there's this kind of like lack of like technology can be used to actually help. And one way that we actually improve culture is we're super transparent with the data, right? We'll show every individual employee in the company, hey, here's what you failed in this, you clicked on this and you did this, and it's like it shows it's almost like a tree diagram. Hey, you failed this test, so like now you have to do this training, right? And then you're going to get this knowledge check, and then you're going to get tested again. So it kind of shows them, every it's like a snowflake, right? Every individual in the company has a different learning path.
Well, that's the thing I'm seeing here also,
Yeah.
Which relates to similar to what we do from a different angle, but it's
Yeah.
like you said, it wasn't possible before without AI because there's so much data you have to process in order to identify where are you, what's your risk level, what skills do you have, what skills do you need, and what can we do to specifically strengthen your skill gap. So for like that woman, she might just need like a 2% improvement, right? And like she knows what she brings to the table. So you have to get really curated, you could call it content or experiences for her of what are you going to do to upgrade her 2% while everyone else you're upgrading 20 to 30%. But like you couldn't do that without having technology like this to be able to map what are the dynamic needs of each person, so we're not just doing one size fits all stuff.
And she also might not need any. She might just need one 2-minute video on like SOC 2 Type 2 compliance just to check the box. And that's like that might also be the answer. I think
I do a lot of insider threats too, and one of the best case studies out there is it was an employee at Tesla at the Gigafactory. The attackers, 2 Russian guys, did their homework, did their research. They pinged this guy going, this is my risky guy. This guy, that's our best bet to take this USB drive and stick it in a computer, okay? Tesla didn't think he was a risky guy.
They didn't know. They didn't have.
No.
They have no,
But
no way of knowing.
The attackers did.
No.
But turns out he's actually down here with the lady because he was super smart, 27 years old, calls the Tesla security, which is awesome, by the way, which called the FBI, set up a sting, because this guy was going to get paid $500,000, and all he had to do is reach in his pocket and stick a USB drive in his computer.
How did they get him the USB drive? They mailed it to him, or?
No, they met him.
Oh,
It
really?
was going to be a drop.
Wow.
So
And then they
the
did a
drop-
sting.
Yeah, so
Wow.
FBI set up a sting.
Sure.
So he kept up communication with these two gentlemen.
Yeah.
And about an hour north of the Gigafactory in California, they set up a sting. And it's like a TV show, literally.
Yeah.
It was a diner. Everyone in the diner was FBI. The waiters, the cooks, everybody was FBI. Everything was wired. And they got these two Russians on camera basically saying, okay, here's, let me slide this on the table, put this drive in, and we'll pay you $500,000 now. And as soon as our ransomware kicks off, because they were going to shut down
The factory. Yeah.
But that employee was great.
Yeah.
But then I don't hear anything after it. It's like, how do I praise that employee? You know,
Totally.
he did so great. You know, one of my friends is like the best social engineer on the planet. And one of the things he did, and we kind of did something similar here in New York, is he goes into a bank, literally carrying balloons and a birthday cake, okay? And he walks into the bank, puts down a cake and balloons to this lady and starts clapping. And everyone on the floor is like, what are you doing? She goes, she caught the phishing test today. She sent us the email that said we were phishing her, which it turned out it wasn't, it was a real fish. And we just want to congratulate her, okay? Within 5 minutes, okay, this company they were getting 40 reports of phishing coming into security a month, okay? The next month they had 400.
Oh, yeah.
Because everyone wants cake and balloons.
Positive
And
reinforcement.
it cost you what, $42 for cake and balloons? It was a design solution.
And I did similar, which is hilarious thinking, and I did this on a dopamine, which not even thinking about it, was, building access to get through security. So one of my things is getting past security all the time. So this one company called us in to do some research for them. They had a problem with tailgaters.
Yep.
Okay, so they had a high rate of tailgaters. It was crazy. And so we sat there, me and my partner, we would just sit at the door and we would try to tailgate whoever. And whoever stopped us, we'd give them a $25 Starbucks card and say, thank you very much. You blocked us from going in the company. Okay, within 30 minutes, okay, for like an hour and a half, everyone just let us through.
Yeah.
And then anything about it. After the first person, within 30 minutes, I mean, I had a group constantly. I mean, they were texting each other. Hey, if you're coming in the building, make sure you don't let anybody in. Because they were getting gift cards. I mean, we went through our 8 gift cards after that hour and a half within about 12 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just that dopamine. And their rates still are down to this day. And
Wow.
they took that training. This is about 4 years ago. They still took that training that we taught them, and they do it about once a quarter, and they do something similar.
And I think, one thing we've learned is that very quickly you'll find that like 90-something% of the employees are actually just low risk, right? Not even like moderate or so yeah. It's like those employees need to be recognized, rewarded, and it becomes gamified. They can in Slack and Microsoft Teams they're sending each other screenshots of their risk profiles, which is pretty cool. It actually we think it actually increases the culture of the company. But yeah, it's the few employees or the few people in the organization who are kind of maybe ruining it for everyone else, right? And yeah. Anyway, thank you for any other questions or any other topics for right now or cool. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Appreciate it. Thank you. Was this yours?
Yeah,
It was, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And yes, he did let me put my USB dongle on his laptop. So
Yeah.
Hey, David.
So we'll
Hey,
see.
how are you?
Paul.
Yeah.
David.
We've got a CPA compliance firm out of
Oh,
Tampa,
cool.
Florida.
Awesome.
So
Love
close
Tampa.
to know before.
Yeah.